Behind me sits the former home of Emmett Till, which officially became a historic Chicago landmark last year and is currently owned by an organization in this neighborhood called Blacks and Greens. This home will hopefully serve as a permanent reminder of the tragedies of the past and the attempts to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks. Due to a recent spike in transit crime, CTA has announced a plan to increase security on the city transit system. This comes after a series of attacks, some putting people in the hospital. Now CTA and Chicago police are partnering to deal with the violence. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the 1922 version of the film starring John Barrymore, which makes this event even more special for fans of the series. Due to increased interest in the program, it's expanded from accepting 350 freshmen to 500. Students who complete the program receive a tuition grant of $1,000 per quarter, making this opportunity even more appealing to incoming students. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks. With this only being the first location and being so successful, the possibilities are endless. The company eventually plans to expand to other cities such as Detroit and Indianapolis. Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks. Sun is out, there's a nice breeze blowing through the air, and we're going to talk to some people to see what they have planned to do on this gorgeous day in Chicago. Due to a recent spike in transit crime, CTA has announced a plan to increase security on the city transit system. This comes after a series of attacks, some putting people in the hospital. Now CTA and Chicago police are partnering to deal with the violence.
The word is visibility. What we need to do is make sure that on every platform across our system that you, the commuters, see the visibility of sworn police officers as well as these unarmed security guards.
In their announcement, they said they'll be doubling the number of unarmed security and adding more police officers and supervisors to patrol the transit system. Joseph Sweeterman, a DePaul transportation expert, calls the recent spike in crime a crisis and says the CTA had to respond as ridership has been decreasing.
We know the CTA is going to beef up the personnel presence at major stations. I'm seeing that already. They're installing more cameras. I think there's a real push for rapid response. So when there's a crime, they can, apprehend the perpetrators. And boy, it's a big problem though.
Crime on CTA trains is up 17% compared to this time last year. Since the CTA's announcement, 48 violent crimes have occurred, including robberies, assaults, and battery. CTA officials said in a statement they're regularly working with the police to strategically deploy guards and officers based on trends, and claim that crime incidents compared to riders remain low. Some DePaul students like Justin Gray, who have to commute to campus on CTA trains, fear that these efforts still won't be enough.
That there's not going to be an officer in every car. They have police that are supposed to patrol the CTA, but they don't have them at every stop. There's not enough of them. So, once that happens, you're kind of just screwed, and then you have PTSD from that experience.
Last month, DePaul launched a free shuttle for students that runs Mondays through Thursdays from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. between the Loop and Lincoln Park campuses. Some feel this is a safer option than the CTA.
People that don't feel safe on the train, they have an option now, and they can enjoy their evening activities and have a way to get back to campus without necessarily being in a group.
Some question how public transportation will be any safer since the guards will be unarmed and are only there to serve as a second pair of eyes. Good Day DePaul reached out to CTA for comment but received no response. Reporting for Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks.
Another child stripped away from her mother too soon due to gun violence. 8-year-old Melissa Ortega came to America with her mother seeking a better life, but instead her life was tragically taken. Melissa was hit by a stray bullet aimed at someone else in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood.
Very sad to see children's lives be taken away due to senseless gang violence. And we really need more change, and that's been addressed numerous times, but I have yet to see any of the change.
Change is one of the topics Police Superintendent David Brown touched on at a recent news conference, saying what happened to Melissa shouldn't happen again to anyone, anywhere.
We have to do more in our communities to reach our young people. We do, and that's all of us, and apply even more pressure to get rid of gangs and guns.
2 suspects have been charged in Melissa's murder. The alleged shooter, a 16-year-old who was already on probation for 3 armed hijackings. The teenager was reportedly aiming at a rival gang member when Melissa was struck in the head.
So he's just a kid himself too. So what does that say about our community and how we are supporting our youth? Obviously, we're failing. And in this moment, I think it's not just that we failed Melissa, but we also failed the kid who was involved with the shooting.
A memorial for Melissa sits right here at the corner of West 26th Street and South Pulaski Road, where she was shot and killed. Melissa's body will be taken back to her hometown in Mexico, where her funeral services will be held. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lanita Brooks.
Electric scooters are now back in Chicago for good, with a new ability to be docked at the same stations that are already used for divvy bikes. This will eliminate one of the main concerns from the trial period back in 2019 of having scooters left on the sidewalk in the public's way.
I think the ability now to use the divvy stations for docking, to have some centralized areas where you can find these scooters, will create a little less of the sidewalk clutter, which has been of concern to a lot of people. So it brings some order, I think, to the process.
Beginning this summer, 3 other electric scooter companies, Lime, Span, and Super Pedestrian, will be allowed to provide 1,000 e-scooters each across the city, but could eventually be allowed to expand to 2,000 each. Half of those scooters have been designated for the west and south sides of Chicago, where transportation options are lower. Some divvy users say they'd like having another alternative.
I think the scooters are a good addition to the city. It helps people, get around and sightsee a little bit more easier without having to use Uber. And it's a fun way to transportation, so you're having fun getting where you need to go at the same time.
I think it is better than the bikes, sort of, kind of, because, everybody who don't want to ride a scooter.
For safety reasons, the scooters are not allowed along the Riverwalk or Lakefront Trail.
Our city has played it safe, I think, but allowed us to experiment. We're not allowing them on the Lakefront Trail. You don't see them right downtown. We have limited them to certain parts of the city during the test process.
The divvy scooters cost only $1 to unlock and 39 cents per mile. Riders can pay and check for availability using the Divvy app on their phones. Reporting for Good Day DePaul, I'm Lanita Brooks.
Almost 70 years since his death, Congress recently passed an anti-lynching bill in honor of the late Emmett Till, the 14-year-old Chicago native who was brutally murdered after a white woman, Carol Bryant Donovan, falsely accused him of whistling at her and touching her in a Mississippi store. The bill for the first time would make lynching a federal hate crime in the U.S.
And so for me, this bill is a part of Mamie Till, his mother, and his legacy around civil rights, around, trying to root out and call to the carpet hate crimes and racism, and that we don't want to continue in a society that tolerates that.
After a century and 200 attempts to outlaw lynching, supporters of the bill say it's still necessary to put an end to hate crimes.
With the increased racial polarization and the heightened white supremacy and particularly things that people were more outrightly violent towards people of color, particularly during the years of the Trump administration. No, I definitely think it should be enacted now.
So I definitely do think that this should have been put into place a long, long time ago. And I think it's a little sad that we have to redirect people's attention to the issue too. So I feel on the fence about it, but at the same time, if it's possible, let's do it. So be it.
More than 4,000 lynchings of Black people were reported between 1877 and 1950. Illinois Democratic Congressman Bobby Rush, sponsor of the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, said that lynching is just covered in a different camouflage now, and that the rope has been replaced with a shotgun and semi-automatic weapons. Others say different types of hate crimes are still being committed.
The term lynching may seem antiquated and old, but the act of a hate crime against someone based on their race is still very relevant, still very prevalent, and it still goes on.
We can extend it to all of them, from the microaggressions to violence against particularly Black people, but also other people of color and immigrants. Yeah, I think these are all a form of lynching where individuals as a group decide that they can kill someone because of their race or their religion.
Till's family never stopped pushing to get this bill passed and to keep his memory alive while still highlighting the horrors of his death.
Living in Chicago, I drive past 71st Street every day. That is the street that is dedicated to Emmett Till. His family members are still alive. The accuser is still alive. So these things are not in a very distant past, even though we want to think about it as such.
Behind me sits the former home of Emmett Till, which officially became a historic Chicago landmark last year and is currently owned by an organization in this neighborhood called Blacks and Greens. This home will hopefully serve as a permanent reminder of the tragedies of the past and the attempts to prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks. It is early October and the weather here in Chicago is incredible. With it being in the mid-70s, the city is taking full advantage of that. People are out socializing, eating, exercising, and sightseeing. The sun is out, there's a nice breeze blowing through the air, and we're going to talk to some people to see what they have planned to do on this gorgeous day in Chicago.
Well, it's my friend's first time here, so we're taking her to see the bean, and then we're going to a museum, and then we're just going to get lunch.
And then we're going to mosey over to the Art Institute, because there's a Monet exhibit. And then if we're lucky, we're gonna make it to Starbucks Reserve.
This is my first time in Chicago, in downtown, so I'm just gonna stroll around, kind of look around. It's a great day to walk and just kind of cruise, so that's what I think I'm gonna do.
We also asked, with the pandemic going on currently, will people still be celebrating the most fun and spookiest night of the year?
It's definitely my favorite holiday, so I've been getting my costume together since early April, so I'm very excited.
It may be fall time here in Chicago, but the weather is as beautiful as ever.
For fall, just the pretty colors. I will be honest and tell you fall's not my favorite season. I'm a summer girl, but I can embrace the colors and the crisp air, and I wouldn't want to live where we didn't have seasons, so I think that's fun.
I love fall. I love the weather. I'm excited to see all of the trees changing soon, and yeah, I just love the weather.
Good Day DePaul, I'm Lenita Brooks.